Afternoon. We've got an exciting day here in Florida for our water and the future of our environment. First, to start this event off, I'd like to bring up Dr. Crosby with Mote Marine.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Mote Marine Laboratory. For those of you that may not be familiar with us, over our 64-year history as an independent nonprofit science enterprise, we've grown quite a bit from a little one-room shack into what we are now, a global research enterprise. Mote's mission and our passion is to conduct research at the frontiers of science, and more importantly, to translate and transfer that science for positive impacts for long-term conservation and sustainable use of our marine and coastal environments. And that's what we're here to talk about today, Florida's environment. Florida's environment is diverse, and with a coastline approximately 1,350 miles long, it's larger than any other state's coastline in the lower 48 states. So given our mission, our leadership in marine research, especially as related to red tide, and given the critical linkages between a healthy marine and coastal environment to the culture, the economy, the quality of life of all of us here in Florida, I was so heartened to hear our new governor say so clearly during his inaugural address that the quality of our water and environmental surroundings are foundational to our prosperity as a state. But even more energizing for me was that he also said that he will lead the efforts to save our waterways, that together we will fight red tide and other harmful algal blooms, that he will never, ever quit, and that he won't let foot draggers stand in our way. This is a very powerful commitment, and I believe significant action will follow. And that's why it is my honor to introduce the governor of the great state of Florida, Governor DeSantis.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you for a great demonstration. We were in the other room getting to see a lot of what the scientists are working on in order to combat red tide and do other stuff to protect our waterways. Look, I was running during the campaign. I came here, I came to other communities. I listened loud and clear to what Floridians were telling us, that they wanted action on this. I said that I would act. Obviously, in my speech the other day, we devoted a good portion to saying this is a fight we need to take, and I wanted us to be on more of a war footing on this and have a sense of urgency. And so I think that's what today's executive actions really show. Shows a vision, but it also puts meat on the bone. So we're going to be seeking $2.5 billion over the next 4 years for water resource and Everglades-related projects. That represents $1 billion more than the previous 4 years. And so that is something that I think is warranted, and it's something we're going to fight for. We're also going to do things such as, within DEP, make sure that we have a chief science officer. I want them to be talking with people like this so that we have the most up-to-date sound science at our fingertips so that when we're making policy, it's going to be effective policy. We're also going to do things like move the enforcement arm of environment from Fish and Wildlife into DEP, since that is where we want this to be streamlined and we want it to be most effective, and so we're going to do that, and I think that that'll make a big difference. We're also going to have a resiliency officer to look at how different communities are affected by things like increased flooding and rising water. So all in all, I think this is a very bold vision. I think it's a bold policy, and I just got into office and here I am. So I think that shows people that this is not just going to be an issue, that I'm going to put out there, but it's going to be one of our priorities, because I think that we're at a point where this has become more salient for everyday Floridians. And I think we have huge majority of Floridians across party lines that would love to see action. And so when you have really big majorities and they really want to see something done, I think that gives us the most ability to actually do that. Now, this is not, unfortunately, I wish we could just do it in the governor's office or even work at the legislature. We're going to work with local communities, and we are going to work with the federal government. I think that the federal government obviously plays a big role in this. I worked during the transition with not only the White House but also the Army Corps to address the management of Lake Okeechobee. We're going to continue to do that because I think we could probably avoid having to do these discharges, certainly not at the level that we've seen at a minimum. And I think that that would obviously be very, very beneficial. And we are going to, on our end, on the state, move forward with the EAA reservoir, which is very, very important to be able to stop discharges. And we're going to make sure that the Army Corps gets on track with this thing, and we don't want it to take 10 years. That, I think, is going to be unacceptable. So those federal projects, we're going to be working very hard. And the good news is I do think the administration understands Florida's needs, and I think that they're willing to work with us. So we've got a lot of work to do, but I think that we have the leadership, we have the will, and working with people like President Galvano in the Senate and Joe Gruters in the Senate, some of our reps. I mean, there's a critical mass of folks here that really want to get some big things done. So this is a challenge, but I also think it's an exciting time because we actually can be part of really solving some of these problems for generations to come. And so with that, I will introduce my wonderful Lieutenant Governor to say a few words.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you all for being here. It's an exceptional day in Florida. Tuesday was a historic day for me personally, for the governor. Yesterday was also a historic day with the governor selecting his first Supreme Court nominee, and that was a wonderful selection. And today is also a historic day. And I think today shows his commitment to really solving the problems that challenge Florida each and every day. And so I want to thank Moat Marine for allowing us to come here to talk about the important steps that this governor is taking. I want to thank our legislative leaders, both President Galvano, Senator Gruters, former Representative Boyd, for being here. It's important that we're going to collaborate with the legislature, and also our tremendous policy stakeholders that are behind me and in the room. We thank you for wanting to partner with this governor. For far too long, we've seen the challenges that have affected this coast and the other coast. And so I believe you heard from the governor during the campaign, his commitment to this issue. I think Floridians deserve for us to give this the attention that it so rightfully deserves. They demand it, in fact, and this governor is going to deliver. And so I'm so excited to stand here today with the important actions that have been taken through the executive order, which really focuses on a multi-pronged approach of both policy, budget, and really administrative attention. And I know that our secretary is going to do great things, and it is really indeed a historic day, and I thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Next, as the governor mentioned this morning when we met with many of the environmental leaders in Florida, it takes a team to protect the environment here in Florida. And so next I'd like to invite up President Galvano.
Thank you. Many of you know I've been affiliated with Moat Marine for many years, and the work that is done here is absolutely incredible and very important. And that makes me so excited that less than, well, just a little over 48 hours ago, this governor and the lieutenant governor, along with the first lady, were just taking office. And here they are today. And more importantly, it's not just a visit. It's a visit to further understanding, but it comes with a very bold, aggressive executive order, which from a legislative perspective tells us that this leader recognizes what the people of Florida are demanding, as the lieutenant governor said, and recognizes the importance of our environment and the urgency with which we need to deal with these issues that impact so many Floridians. And so, Governor, First Lady, Lieutenant Governor, you have a partner in the Florida Senate to achieve these goals.
And in furtherance of that statement, next we'd like to welcome up Senator Gruters.
Sure. Thank you. How can you go after these guys? I mean, thank you so much, Mr. Secretary. And all I could say is it's wonderful to have our new great governor and his lieutenant governor and our Senate president. It's crazy to have the leadership of our state in Sarasota County 2 days after they were sworn in to really fight what's our biggest issue that's challenging us today. I've lived in Florida my entire life, 41 years, and I've never seen as much devastation, both from a marine life standpoint and an economic standpoint on our shores and our communities than we have over this past year. And the warning signs have already popped up that red tide is back. Our communities are going to suffer, and we have to do more as a state to get in front of this issue. And I have no doubt in my mind, at first when the Governor DeSantis was campaigning, he started talking about some of these environmental issues and some of the groups that he was going against. I said, wow, he's really going up against some very strong winds. But what it's about is when he was talking about, when he was sworn in his inauguration speech, he talked about doing what is right for Florida. And this is what's doing what's right, protecting what's our most valuable resource, and that's our natural resources and our waterways, which is the jewels of Florida. And so for that, Governor, Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for Dr. Crosby for hosting us today, and Moat Marine, the vision that you guys have come up with and the work that your scientists have done, not only for this local community, but for the entire state. You don't nearly get enough credit, and during the red tide issue, you guys were out in front nonstop. And so from the state standpoint, thank you for your work and being the leader here in Florida. And thank you to Senator Galvano for being such an amazing, inspirational Senate President. Thank you.
Thank you. And if Anna Upton with the Everglades Foundation, again, our environmental groups in Florida are key to making progress forward with environmental restoration.
I promise we didn't compare notes before getting up here today, but you'll hear a lot of the same from me, from what you've already heard. January 8th marked a great day for our water, our state, and America's Everglades with the signing in and the swearing in of Governor DeSantis and Lieutenant Governor Nunez. The executive order that Governor DeSantis signed today shows that it's a new day. The days of having to tolerate the insufferable status quo are over. The days of listening to excuses for delay or inaction are over. The cavalry has arrived. The executive order issued today establishes a chief science officer and a task force to combat blue-green algae. It shows an unprecedented commitment to investing and protecting our natural resources, among other things. In sum, the executive order is remarkable. It's remarkable, but it's not surprising, because I've gotten to know the governor and Casey and Jeanette over the last year, and I've known Secretary Valenstein for much longer than that. And while they have the titles of governor, first lady, lieutenant governor, and secretary, their most cherished titles are mom and dad. They care about the same things that we care about. They want our children to grow up in a better world than what we have today. And I know that they are committed to making it happen. They want clean water, they want a healthy environment, and they know that those two things together provide the most solid foundation for a healthy, prosperous economy where we can all thrive. So I want to thank you again for your commitment to protecting our water and our environment. I look forward to continuing to work with all of you to make America's Everglades great again, and with bold leadership like you guys here today, I have no doubt we will get it done. Thank you.
When you look out at the water outside and you recognize Florida is known around the world as a fishing capital, I want to introduce Captain Chris to come up and make a remark.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you. That was unexpected. I'm Chris Peterson, and I'm with Hells Bay Boat Works, also Captains for Clean Water. Really, just again to echo everything that people before me have said. Somebody asked me back in December when Governor-elect DeSantis was coming in, they said, we've heard a lot from the campaign, Chris. Why are you so enthusiastic about the governor taking office? And I said, if you just look at who the man is, if you look at his history on where he's been and what he's done in his life, you'll know he's a man of honor and a man of his word. So therefore, I believe, I'm putting my trust in that he will go forward and do what he said on the campaign. And if you heard some of his speeches during the inauguration and otherwise since he's come to office, he's moving forward on those promises. He's making it happen. just like I thought he would, and I want to thank him for that. And it's a lot of times when people come to office, they talk about the first 100 days. Holy mackerel, it hadn't been 100 hours. Matter of fact, it's been less than 48 when he signed that executive order today. So he's a man of action, a man of his word, and I'm proud that he is our governor. Thank you.
Next, I'll introduce Eric Sutton, the Executive Director for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, First Lady, and other dignitaries, it's an honor to stand with you today on this historic day. As a biologist and someone who spent a significant amount of time on these waters in Southwest Florida, I want to thank you for the executive order exercising leadership so quickly on the health of our water resources. I will say, as a biologist and representative of FWC, you're 100% on point of the significance of the issue to Florida's environment and our fish and wildlife resources and the fishing capital of the world. So in turn, these water resources play a huge role in our economy and our quality of life. And so on behalf of the Fish and Wildlife Commission, we stand ready to fully support your direction and to work alongside the many partners, including you, Dr. Crosby and Moat, on this important issue. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Thank you. I'll mention on behalf of the Department of Environmental Protection, Governor, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for providing the resources and also the tools we need to take bold action to protect our environment. Like so many others have said, it's hours in and we're already by the waterside with the governor, first lady, lieutenant governor, and all of the team to make significant improvements now in the environment. Governor, thank you so much for providing the resources for Everglades to protect our coastlines and to protect our water. Again, in Florida, our water is our way of life. This is leadership. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all that. We'd be happy to take some questions if you guys have some.
Governor, 48 hours. Why come to Sarasota? Why is this the first issue, really?
Well, it's because it's one of the most important issues, and we want to just show people by being here that it matters and it's going to have our attention. But then obviously by rolling out really bold policy to start, we're not just talking, we're acting. And I promised that I would take action if the environment was threatened, and I'm following through with what I said I would do. And you know, look, we only have a limited amount of time on this earth. We got to make the most of it. I mean, we got in Tuesday. You know, it gave a speech. We got to do my son's baptism, which is really fun. Yesterday, I put a wonderful judge on the Supreme Court, Barbara Lagoa. We also made it to the Florida Panhandle, and we can't forget about the communities that were affected by Hurricane Michael. I had gone a number of times in October following the election. We distributed supplies, but I had not gone to Mexico Beach, which got hit the worst. And you know, you see the bad images, but when you actually stand there and you see concrete slabs of where a house used to be and like nothing else, it really, really hits home. So we wanted to let them know we're not forgetting them. We're going to work hard. But then this issue, you know, look, we have great opportunity to do some things with the economy, some other things, but if we don't get this right, a lot of the other things, it's much more difficult to get those issues right. So we're going to be working very hard on it because it's the right thing to do, but it also is so interconnected to everything else we're trying to get in Florida. Yep.
Governor Joe Hendricks from the Anna Maria Island Sun newspaper. The island out there has been hit, the restaurants, the businesses, the resorts. What can the governor's office and the state do to help lessen that economic impact this year? And what can the governor and the state do to help prevent red tide blooms in future years?
Well, what we're going to do is the reason why we want to come place right here, the reason why we're going to have a chief science officer now is because we want to listen to the people who are on the ground in the fight, who know what may work, what may not. And obviously, you know, we still don't have all the answers on red tide. I wish we did. Some of the things I think that I will work to do is work with the Army Corps to get them to manage Lake Okeechobee differently, what they can do within their existing regs. And I'm going to be going over to Stuart with Congressman Mast, who's been leading the fight on this. If you have fewer discharges, or hopefully no discharges, we don't know to what extent those nutrients getting out here affects red tide, but we think it's a factor. Wouldn't it be nice to not have to experience that this summer during the rainy season? And so I think there are certain things we can do with this executive order. Then there's certain things I can do working in conjunction with the federal government to try to get them to manage some of this a little bit better.
Governor, I know you haven't rolled out your legislative agenda yet, but do you expect to ask for new legislation to address the sources of some of the pollution? There's a lot of bills that have started to have been filed. Joe Gruters has a couple bills, one relating to septic tank inspections, one relating to fining utilities that have sewage leaks into waterways. Any thoughts on those?
So we have in our order today, I mean, we ordered DEP to create a matching grant program with local governments for the septic to sewer conversion. I don't think the state should just fund that outright because it really is a local issue, but it is important and we want to reduce nutrients, and so we're willing to do a matching program. And you look at different parts of the state, it's not even in terms of the septic. So we're going to be going over to Martin County. They have actually a pretty high amount of septic. That's not helpful, so we want to do that. And I'm willing to look at any idea that could potentially help do this because again, it's something that, people say, oh, putting some good money into this. Well, yeah, but you know what? If we don't do this and fix it, I mean, our tax base is going to erode. We'll have less resources 10, 15 years from now. So this is really, I think, helping us keep that foundation solidified for future economic prosperity. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, specifically with your water policy reforms, what in there will help those impacted by red tide and the research for scientists like those here at Moat? How can we tackle, what will your policy specifically do to help tackle that issue?
Well, we're going to provide resources, which when you talk about $2.5 billion over 4 years, that is $1 billion more than the previous 4 years. And so some of that will be to water resource projects that will help with water quality. Some of it may be going to places like this who are doing good work. And so we're going to I think the thing about the executive order is, we didn't just do an executive order about, hey, we're going to do this one thing. I mean, this is really a comprehensive approach, and I think that's the best way to tackle it, and that's the way that we're most likely to have success that impacts people's lives in a positive way.
One more question.
Governor?
Yes.
This is unrelated a bit to what we're doing today, but I know you had only a couple days in office here, but we got a lot of federal workers wondering what's going on with this shutdown. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that and your thoughts moving forward.
Well, I've had my hands full down here, I can tell you. I've been there and done that in Washington and have the T-shirt. So I think that there's a lot of political posturing going on. And quite frankly, I mean, it feels good to be here in Florida where, my sense is people want to solve problems. I mean, I've had great conversations with a lot of Democrats in the legislature. Some of them said, they never talked to a governor as much as they've talked to me in just 2 days. So I want to be productive. I do not want to mimic the ways of Washington. I think that broke down. And Casey, in fact, just said to me when someone said something, she's like, could you imagine if you were still up there, how miserable it would be? So we want to be problem solvers here in Florida. We don't want to follow the Washington ways. Thank you, guys.